East Coast, 10 o'clock.
Yep, and we are live. That's right. This is Dave Tran calling in from Houston, Texas. This is the Tats Tots call with Dr. Bryan Wright calling from Elk Grove, but I don't know if he's actually in Elk Grove right now. Are you out there right now?
Yeah. I'm in Elk Grove, California, yes.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Well, if you are joining us and this is your first time, what we do is a monthly call with one of the Art of the Specific docs that's all across the country and soon to be all across the world. I think we have a doc opening up in Norway. But this is something we do where we get to connect with some of the docs that are like in the trenches, that are working full time.
East Coast, 10 o'clock.
I know.
And we are live. That's right.
So, yeah, I got a little playback right there too. So this is gonna be awesome. So thank you so much, Dr. Bryan, for giving some of your time because I know you just worked all day today, right?
Yes, today was one of my half days, but it was a good day.
Okay, good, awesome.
And thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
So and then I like to welcome all the coasts. We have some Life West students as well as Parker and Life. So we have all coasts represented, and this is being recorded. So now this is going to be cool, and then we'll be able to share this with other people as well. So it's not too late to join the call. If you have friends, classmates, colleagues that want to join, it's not too late because we'll be doing this for another hour or so. So enough about the call. Let's get to know Dr. Bryan just a little bit more. So Dr. Bryan, how did you get started in chiropractic?
Oh, good question. So that's actually an interesting question. One of the questions that I like to ask usually students or other doctors when I first meet them is, how did you become a chiropractor? Why did you want to become a chiropractor? And so real quick, I don't have a chiropractor in my family, so I don't come from a chiropractic background. I remember in the first philosophy course at Logan College of Chiropractic, the philosophy professor basically asked us, how many of us, of like 170 students, came from a chiropractic family.
Yeah.
And there was barely any of us that raised our hand. And he said what was interesting is back in the day, in the 60s, 70s, maybe even early 80s, most of the class would actually raise their hand, and meaning that they came from a chiropractic family. So that meant that they saw good results with their family members, and they just lived that lifestyle. But as I think the chiropractic profession grew and got better and better results, then it started to change. So in my case, I just went to a chiropractor when I was younger. I had a couple major car accidents, one when I was 16 and another one when I was about 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
And, what really sealed the deal for me was, I had suffered from basically debilitating migraine headaches to the point where I was getting them just about every single day. And, the routine, when you have a crazy condition, you start to chase symptoms. So I started getting these, headaches that came up the right side of my head. So you start chasing your eyeballs, you start chasing your teeth, you start chasing maybe it's your ears. The chiropractic office I originally went to was for basically low back pain from the first auto accident that I was involved in. I stopped going to the chiropractor once I started feeling better. I never knew what chiropractic was all about.
Yeah.
But like I said, then I started getting these crazy migraine headaches. And I didn't think to go back to the chiropractor initially until I couldn't find a solution. And all the doctors and everybody else I went to see and visit, they said, well, yeah, you have migraine headaches, but there's nothing we can really do for you. Here, take this pill. And for a 16, 17-year-old kid, I was like, this is not normal. I really felt like I was dying. It was really bad. So I just felt like something was drawing me back to the original chiropractic office. And granted, this chiropractic office was mainly just a big PI practice. I mean, that's all they saw. They were just a big PI mill. And nothing wrong with it. They just saw a ton of people. Really didn't care. I guess they cared about the patients, but it was just like numbers. It was just like numbers and numbers of people.
Yeah.
But I went there when I had these crazy headaches, and about a week or 2 weeks into care, and this was just general chiropractic care, the headaches stopped. And I just remember at that time I was about ready to graduate high school, and I was looking for something to do. Really didn't have a clue. I loved math and science. But as soon as those headaches stopped, I was like, man, it just really felt like I got my life back. And I asked the doc, I'm like, hey, where do I go to school? How do I do this? So that was kind of like my introduction to chiropractic.
Yeah, that's great. And then where did you go to school?
I'm sorry.
Where did you go to school?
So I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, from the St. Louis area, and I didn't check out any other chiropractic colleges. I just my field docs, as you call them, they said, look, there's a chiropractic college here in Missouri in the St. Louis region, and that's Logan College of Chiropractic, is what it was known at the time. This was back in early 90s, 1992, 1993.
Oh, I thought you meant like 1890.
What? No. No. So yeah, it's interesting. I have no chiropractic in my family, and he said, look, there's a school right here in Missouri, and I'm like, okay. So I just went to my counselors. I'm like, what do I need to do to get into chiropractic college, specifically Logan? And they, at the time, I don't know what the prereqs were at the time, maybe 65, 70 credits to get into the chiropractic program. So I just knocked it out. I knocked it out with like 3 or 4 years of undergrad, and I started chiropractic college at Logan College of Chiropractic in 1995, the fall of 1995, which, as you know, is the centennial, the celebration. Again, had no idea that it was our 100-year celebration. I didn't even know about Palmer. I had no clue about B.J. Palmer or even Davenport, which is only 4 hours north of St. Louis. But that's when I started. I started the fall of 1995 at Logan.
Yeah, so you started chiropractic school kind of like me, where I didn't really understand what was going on, what chiropractic truly was. But then there was something that kind of steered you within attending Logan, which was I know that you joined a fraternity that kind of like taught you a lot more about chiropractic. So could you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah. So what year did you start your school? What year did you start?
Yeah, about 4 years ago. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. So you come from the same kind of thing. No chiropractors in your family, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm the alpha.
Now, did you also have an injury yourself, or is that why you wanted to start?
Well, I mean, for me, it was interesting kind of conversation, because like I was a computer programmer, but I was horrible at it, and I quit because I was drinking way too much. My sister was like, "Yeah, you should probably stop." So I quit and actually started rolling sushi and DJing, and I DJed for a local club, and the club was actually owned by 2 chiropractors.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I was like, oh man, that's awesome. I was like, I want that. So then I enrolled in chiropractic school.
Okay, so were you even like under care at all before you started?
Yeah, I started care. I was like, oh yeah, I could totally do this.
Okay.
I was like, oh yeah.
Right. Yep. Well, that's kind of like, then that's how I was. I mean, all I knew about chiropractic was that, my lower back first got better, my headaches went away, and I was really excited because I couldn't believe like how fast or how little the doctor was with me, time-wise. He came in and said, hey, what's going on? Again, general chiropractic, just adjusted me everywhere. And then another receptionist came in and threw me on some therapy beds, and I was like, well, that was weird. And the whole experience lasted about maybe 20, 30 minutes, but then my headaches went away. So I'm thankful that the headaches and just the condition, at least the symptoms went away, and that just motivated me to search out this profession.
Yeah.
Now, getting through the undergrad, you know how it is. It's pretty tough to get through all those science courses in the beginning, but once I started to start Logan, I was young. What did you start? How old were you? You're a little bit young. You're a little bit older though, starting, right?
I'm old.
So when I started Logan, man, I was early 20s, 21, 22 years old. So I was still like just a young kid. I felt like, and I was in this, supposed graduate school with all these older people. So just the first trimester at Logan, we have trimester system.
Yeah.
I just buckled down. I was just like, man, I do not want to fail one course. And at Logan, they really do set it up like that to where they make you feel like, I mean, this is serious, which it is. It's serious business, but, I mean, they're just like books, and study. So
yeah.
I hunkered down for the first trimester, and I just want to make sure that I did not fail anything. Gross anatomy is kind of like a weeding out course. So, but yeah, so basically, even in trimester 1, I still didn't even care to learn what chiropractic was all about. I just want to make sure I did not fail. So I got through trimester 1. I was like, wow, okay, that was intense, but it was doable, right? You know, your body just adapts, your mind adapts to the regimen of all the classwork and all the test work, and that was it, man. So I got through it. And what was the original question?
Yeah, so as you joined a fraternity, could you talk about that?
Oh yeah, man. Okay, so going on. So then trimester 2 comes around, and again, still no clue what the hell I'm even doing in chiropractic college. At this time at Logan, I started hearing older trimester students, like trimester 9 and trimester 10 students. You just started hearing conversations. I don't know if you had that same experience when you were a younger student, but you start hearing the fear of people, the fear of students.
Yeah.
And of students that are about to graduate. And I guess it's normal fear, but I mean, they were like scared to death. They had no idea where they were going. They didn't know how to communicate chiropractic. A lot of them were just nervous to even touch a person. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. Here I am. We're going to spend like $150,000 of a huge investment. And these students, because I'm observing these older students about to graduate, and they have no clue. So at this time, trimester 2, I'm like really considering of whether or not I should make this my profession.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was like, I wonder if this is even what I should be doing. So I got through trimester 2. I was still like on the outskirts of just had no idea what chiropractic was all about. But at the same time, I see these guys like walking around, and you're talking about the fraternity. So at Logan College of Chiropractic, we have the Delta Sigma Chi, which our Alpha chapter is in Palmer, Chiropractic College. And I just saw these guys just kind of walking around. They had their blue coats on, and out of a school, we had about, I think, 1,000 to 1,200 students at the time. This small group of individuals, they were just so super excited, and they just seemed like they were on purpose, and just were always doing something. They were always involved in seminars on campus and off campus. And at the time, I did have a guy that I knew. We weren't good friends, but we were kind of close. He had just joined a fraternity, so I just started to approach him, asked him like, "Hey, what's the deal with this?" And he actually approached me earlier in trimester 2, and I just was kind of backing off. I'm like, no, I don't need that time management. I don't need a fraternity. I need to focus on my schoolwork.
Yeah.
But towards the end of trimester 2, that was the time I was like, I don't know, I really need some help here as far as chiropractic was concerned.
Yeah. So do you feel like joining the fraternity kind of directed you towards learning more about what chiropractic was really about, or?
Oh yeah. Well, in my case, again, this isn't true in every chiropractic college, but with Logan, it's not philosophical by any means, but it's not purely medical. Again, at the time that I went, I would say it was more middle of the road, but leaning towards allopathic, kind of metapractic type practice.
Sure.
But for me, in my situation, man, the fraternity, in my opinion, it saved me. It saved me as far as being a chiropractor and my life as it is now. That's how I feel.
Yeah. And then, was that when you were first introduced to Upper Cervical, or when did you like your journey for Upper Cervical?
Right. Good question. So Logan, the basic 2 techniques you get introduced at Logan are basically Logan Basic Technique, which not a lot of people know about.
Yeah, I know about it.
The brown thumbs, and then we basically the core technique, another core technique, which pretty much is the major at other schools, is diversified. We get no upper cervical training whatsoever through school, and really going through the classes, they teach you, well, you can work on certain things and certain conditions, but you really should think about referring out your patients and not taking care of anybody. But so answer your question, getting into the fraternity, as soon as I get in, these guys are like reading these green books, these things called green books, and then at the same time, a bunch of them were flying out to San Francisco, to Redwood City, to take the IUCCA program, the old IUCCA program, with Dr. Amalu and Dr. Chiscarino back in the 90s. And at the time, that was a huge... the IUCCA with Dr. Amalu and Chiscarino, along with Dr. Kale, were the main 2 knee-chest upper cervical seminars going at the time. Yeah. So they were like, hey, Bryan, you want to come with us? I'm like, all right, I'm going. So I went out, from Missouri. We just started flying out to Redwood City. And again, I think it was a trimester 3 students, and just like a lot of these students that are getting introduced to the TATS program, as far as scans, x-rays, you're like, what am I even looking at on these x-rays, If you're a quarter 1 or a trimester 1 student, A lot of those X-rays are way over your head, I feel. But I just kept going, and so that was my first kind of like step into upper cervical seminars. But just getting into the green books, that's when I started reading more philosophy as far as BJ philosophy and chiropractic philosophy. But reading a lot of BJ's older texts, he talks a lot about just the CO, C1, C2, subluxation complex.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, what is this all about? Yep.
Yeah. So when you were first introduced to upper cervical, did it first make sense, or did you go back to Logan Basic, or did you go or was it like something like it immediately stuck with you, or
No, it didn't make sense. The only thing that I liked about just the premise of upper cervical, because coming from having basically diversified manipulation done on me, just general chiropractic, and not knowing why he was doing what he was doing, and then going to Logan where I started asking these suited up doctors, teaching us diversified, and you go up and ask them, you're like, hey, okay, I get that T4 is right, and you're feeling for these processes, but how do you know that it should be adjusted, and how do you know when to adjust, and how do you know when not to adjust? You start asking these questions, and they're like, well, I didn't really get straightforward answers, in my opinion. It just was like you felt like you were just being pushed through a mill. Learn this technique, get through your boards, and get out there and open up your business, But if you start asking like objective questions, you just got kind of shunned. It seemed like. So getting into the green books, I'm like, wait a minute. All these questions have already been asked and already worked through years prior. So why aren't we learning this now? So that's kind of like, so upper cervical, I wasn't really sold on that, but what I was sold on was just instrumentation, being specific, using X-rays properly, and knowing when and when not to adjust. That was the big thing for me, and that's what kind of sold me.
Yeah. So what was the turning point? Meaning that when did you decide, like, okay, I'm going to open up shop and practice upper cervical?
Well, I think so. Then you start learning this logic of just upper cervical, just protocol. And again, maybe I'm just more of a logical person. I just like to be shown, and I like to have a certain recipe for taking care of people. I don't like just saying, oh, just hit them on this side and they'll get better, or it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to get better. I'm like, yeah, I don't really agree with that. Yeah. So what did sell me was that really the only techniques out there that had strict protocol, at least at Logan, that had very strict protocol that we were being introduced to, were more instrumentation-based techniques like Gonstead and upper cervical. Again, like I said, we weren't being taught upper cervical at Logan, but the seminars that I was going to, those were the only ones that were teaching protocols, and that's what gravitated. So that's what really kind of sold me.
Yeah.
Was really the protocols, and then really just getting back into the green books. I was reading green books basically every day during class, which was tough to balance the green book philosophy versus your grade philosophy,
Yeah, and then so you graduated, and then you embarked, I think, East Coast. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So then I basically, I think it was trimester 6 and 7. I kept going back out to San Francisco and taking more and more modules on knee chest upper cervical philosophy. Again, I really wasn't introduced to a different type of upper cervical procedure. So knee chest was the first one I got introduced to, and that's probably why I stuck with it. Yeah. So I just kept going back to the modules, and so it comes time to about ready to graduate Logan. I'm like, okay, where am I going to go? I was about 24, 25 graduating at the time, and I wasn't too comfortable at all with opening up my own business. I was just like, look, I don't even know this technique at all, this procedure of how to take care of people, and I just wasn't comfortable with opening up my business. The only two people I knew personally, very personally, that did knee chest, and I didn't even really know Sean at all. I knew him briefly.
That could be Sean. That could be a good thing.
I knew Sean in Costa Rica, and I knew Andy was down there with him.
Uh-huh.
And I remember talking on the phone with Sean or Andy. I may have had a phone conversation with Sean when he was in Costa Rica when I was at Logan. I'm like, so what do you guys get paid down there? Do you guys get paid with chickens or what? I had no idea how they even were living, I was so naive. And I knew Bill Trevin. So he was closer to my time frame of graduating. He graduated about 2 years before I did.
Okay.
And but he was real close friends with Sean, and he was doing knee chest in the Boston region, Boston, Massachusetts. And he had been open about 3 years on his own doing knee chest. So I just contacted him, and he offered me. He said, "Hey, you want to come out and be basically an independent doc, not a paid associate." So that was still a good learning curve.
Yeah.
But he's like, "Hey, if you want to come out, I'll help you. I'll help you with this procedure and this process. But you're gonna have to do it on your own." So I went out there in 1999 is when I went out to Boston area after I graduated.
So what did you find? What did you learn from that experience there?
In general, or just like what kind of aspect? What kind of
Well, I mean,
everything?
Yeah, I mean, from this to upper cervical to.
Well, I mean, I think just life in general. Coming from the Midwest to any of the coasts is a big change. I mean, a huge change, and I did love it a lot. It was much more expensive to live out there. Out in the East Coast, I'm sitting there seeing these advertisements to rent a room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about renting a room? Yeah, you rent a room with strangers, and that was something kind of new to me.
Yeah.
But the process was good. So I had to take I still had to take Part 4 board, so I got through that. But in the meantime, I really learned how to basically just hustle, man. I was working in his office when I wasn't in his office, kind of learning X-ray setup and learning better scanning techniques. I was just out there doing screenings.
Yeah.
So that was like the biggest kind of thing in the beginning, is just to learn how to get out there and market yourself with getting patients in the door.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I was doing for him for about the first 6 months until I was fully licensed and ready to go.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so so you kind of learned the ins and outs, and obviously, like, you're not in Boston right now. You're on the West Coast. So how did you make your voyage transcontinental?
Yeah, the transition. So so then I was basically licensed, and so then it was all me. So then it was just like bam, 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 working. But I was still in his office, so it never really truly felt like it was my practice. Which in the beginning was I was really kind of grateful for, because I wasn't stressed out about the front office staff. I wasn't stressed out about paying the rent. I was just kind of like, hey, let's get patients better. Let's really try to hone this procedure and this technique. And can I really get people in the door, get them under care, and manage their case throughout care and make sure they get well? That was my biggest thing. But you learn that pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably one of the major questions that most students always ask me is they're concerned because at the school that I attend and a couple other schools, upper cervical isn't taught just like at Logan. And I think one of the biggest questions that most students have is like, and probably one of the things that we will be talking about at Enzo, which is in St. Louis, the first week of October, is like transitioning a full spine doc who's very interested in practicing upper cervical, because sometimes people get set in their ways and like, okay, well, this is how I've always done it. So can I really truly serve and help people with upper cervical? So I mean, is that something that you were able to gain confidence and certainty in the chest when you were working with is it Dr. Bill?
So your first part, you were asking about maybe a full spine converting. Is that what you're asking about or talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much asking like because I know that you were practicing upper cervical, but
right.
I think probably what I was inferring was that when you were first starting, like how like am I able to provide the people the care that they need and will get better?
I think so. I think one positive note being in a busy upper cervical practice, because Bill sees, he sees quite a few people in a small type office. So just being thrusted into that type of environment, you're like, okay, yeah, this can be done, because you're observing it, And he's doing high volume and just knee chest work, and so any thoughts are like, can this be done? That was pretty squashed pretty quickly. But as far as this full spine, I can't really talk on that. I'm assuming if you're a full spine doc, especially if you've been practicing 10 plus years, that has to be one of the hardest things to do to convert, because you're getting older, you're more stuck in your ways, you're probably getting great results or good results, and you're happy where you are. To sit here and being thrust into more of a specific work, and to be committed to change over your practice from full spine to an upper cervical procedure, that has to be, man, that has to be really, really hard.
Yeah,
Because I'm sure,
and that's why, like, that's going to be like the major, one of the two major topics that we'll be talking about in Enzo, which is, being able to make that transition, because Sean, and Andy probably talk about that all the time, because, you see all the Facebook comments are like, well, I would love to do this upper cervical, but, I like to do full spine, stuff like that, which is totally fine. I mean, there's no, like to me, like there's a universal truth, and, not everybody was supposed to do upper cervical.
Right,
but,
exactly.
So in my mind, those that choose to attend and want to get help from people that are like you and Sean and Amy that are practicing upper cervical and are trained to be able to help people make that transition. And we're also talking about pediatrics too, because
which is a new component.
Yeah.
So I think, but so being thrust in that busy environment again, like you said, I don't feel that like you said, everybody is supposed to be where they are and what they're supposed to be doing in life. And I do feel that upper cervical is definitely it's a specialty, man. It is a challenging procedure, but chiropractic is awesome. I love chiropractic. So just like I feel in medicine, you have general practitioners. So general chiropractors are what grew this profession, and there's nothing wrong with them. But I think as far as upper cervical, it's just a specialty within our procedure or our profession. But when you're a student, man, coming out, I mean, you're just hungry. So I think what you get introduced to. Remember how you and I had a phone conversation about doing a preceptorship and an internship, and I've seen it over and over again. When students, they're so impressionable at a young age, or at a time when you're about ready to graduate. If you do an internship or a preceptorship, I mean, it's a high percentage likelihood that you're going to kind of practice like that doctor's office. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's just what you're being, I don't say that's the 100% of the case, but I think that's what you're getting introduced to. And but when you come out of school, I think whatever you get introduced to, you're going to start picking up really quickly. Yeah. But as far as the aspect of being worried about, are people going to really dig this technique, or are they going to understand what I'm doing? I don't think people care. They just want to get better. Because if they, look at our procedure. I mean, the knee-chest posture. It's a weird-looking posture. We adjust. It's a very firm procedure. It's a very forceful, sort of fast adjustment. People don't care. They just want to get well. And that's one thing I've learned. It's like you can just talk, get people in, and get results. That's the biggest thing, is get results.
Yeah. Are there any patient testimonies that still kind of surprise you today?
Like any kind of patient testimonials?
Yeah, I mean something that whenever people go, hey, does upper cervical work? And then
I mean, as far as I mean, we have you see like kind of a wide range of things. So I think a lot of doctors especially upper cervical seminars, they talk about these crazy cases, cancer cases, and these crazy heart conditions. And you see those. I love talking about those too. But I just like to know when you're sitting there across from a person and you see their file and their history and what all they've done, and basically they've lost hope in their conditions. They're looking for you for answers, and the technique works and the procedure works if it's applied correctly. So to have that confidence, and once you build that confidence in yourself, once you start practicing, to sit across them and say, yep, I see these conditions, they respond super well. We're not here to treat these things, but I'm telling you, I've seen this before, I have years of experience, and you're going to get better. You're going to get well.
Yeah.
But I can tell you a couple cases. This one, I keep talking about this one kid. This is a kid in Boston. He had this condition called, the doctors diagnosed him with neurocardiogenic syncope, which basically he had this weird heart thing where he would get into these weird positions and he would just pass out.
Oh, wow.
And this kid, he was like 21, 22 years old, and he couldn't work anymore. He couldn't go to school. He was basically locked himself in his room. His mom brought him into care with us at our office. And he was about 6'3", 6'4". He was a big guy. We would check him and scan him, and sometimes he would get adjusted and he would just pass out right on the table.
Oh, wow.
In the knee chest position. So I'm sitting there checking other patients in the back, and Bill comes back. He's, Bryan, I need your help. And so I'd have to come up, and we both would have to just basically pick him directly up off the table and just, slowly bring him in the chair. And he would sit down. He would just start sweating and start breathing real heavy, clamming up. But then he would come through, and he goes, man, I passed out, didn't I? I'm like, yeah, you did great. Or you did fine. He came to okay. And but eventually his condition cleared right up. And he did great. And his mother was very appreciative. So we see things like that, which is fun. But the biggest thing is if you have stuff like that happen, not to flip out,
Yeah.
And I think being in another doctor's office, especially with this type of procedure where you do see some very interesting cases, that's another benefit about being into a doctor that's been around for a while, is that you don't flip out. Because where maybe a younger doctor may go, oh goodness, what in the world did I just do? He just passed out. That I hurt him. I think that would be a big one of a big difference too. Yeah.
So you saw that patient in Boston. So how in the world did you end up in California?
Oh, okay. So time goes on, man, and I was in his office for like 7-8 years, and I grew as a person. I met my girlfriend at the time, which then became my wife. She's from this area. She's from Sacramento region. And just things were kind of lining up. I just felt like kind of the writing was on the wall. I was just kind of feeling like I needed to branch out and do my own thing. Yeah. And I really wanted to get away from the East Coast.
Gotcha.
It was just getting cold, 6 months of winter. So I started to make my transition around 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
So I didn't think of anywhere else to go. I was like, well, I definitely didn't want to go back to Missouri.
Yeah, exactly right. Hey,
so I was like,
I like Missouri. I mean, I had my fair share of Sugar Fire barbecue, as well as Ted Drew's.
Yes, Ted Drew's ice cream. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't grow up there, but but I know you just once you leave that area, you're just like, yeah, I wouldn't want to go back.
Yeah, and then now you are a part of the Specific, and yes. As well as participate in a lot of the Art of the Specific, which is the training program that Sean, Dill, and Andy Roberts kind of have done throughout the country now, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So backing up to just training. So I've completed, at the time I did all the modules with Dr. Malu and Tuscarino way back in the day. When I was out in Boston, that's when I started doing my first, mission trips, outreach programs. That's when I got to introduce to Dr. Robert Kessinger and his program. So at that time, Sean was still in Costa Rica. I was out on the East Coast, but I still wanted to learn this procedure because I still felt like I needed to, fine-tune and improve my craft.
Yeah.
And so I started on the journey. Basically, I started taking Dr. Kessinger's modules in Atlanta and in Georgia. At that time, he was doing some different things. He started introducing the Blair X-rays into the knee-chest posture adjustment, which I did not catch on at all. I was so used to just taking the knee-chest, just your standard X-rays.
Yeah.
And here comes the thing where I was already in practice, and I really did not want to change up my X-ray.
Sure.
So maybe that was it. It was weird. I was already practicing. I was like, I do not want to switch. So I did not learn really the Blair analysis. And I think nowadays, I don't even think he's even doing that anymore. So I did all those modules. But then, yes, so coming out to California, by this time, Sean was already out here in California practicing. At the same time, the office I was in Boston, we did mostly insurance. So we did a high percentage of insurance patients. Of which, I did none of the billing. So that made it a lot easier. But you started to see the writing on the wall with a lot of insurance companies slowly cutting back chiropractic benefits. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, this doesn't look good. Wherever this is heading, and you started hearing some other states too, just complaining. And I'm like, you know what? So then I started talking to Sean. He was already out in California doing his thing. He was teaching at Life West. He opened up his clinic, I knew that he was doing more cash-based practice, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of like what I wanted to model. So in my mind, if I'm gonna go out and make this huge trip to California, I want to pretty much try to stay away from insurance. If I'm going to open up my own, I do not want to get into that nightmare of just being an insurance practice. And that's kind of like my transition over to California.
Yeah. And then, so what was it about being a part of the specific and starting training that attracted you to?
So, yeah, and I don't know what would have attracted me. That's just where I was led. So then once I started talking to Sean, I'm like, look, I'm coming out there. And so he knew that this was happening. I think all at the same time, this was just meant to be, but at the same time, he approached me, and at the time, him and Paige, they were saying, look, we're planning on basically licensing our the specific chiropractic center.
Yeah.
So he said, look, instead of you opening up your own clinic wherever you're going to open and be open for a year and then have to change everything in about a year to come over to us, why don't you start training with, at the time it was called, I don't know, it was a different coaching program at the time, but it was still knee chest. He's like, why don't you come through, train with us, at the same time start to open up your practice as a licensed office with the specific chiropractic center. So my thought process on that was, I just saw it as, I don't want to try to reinvent an office and try to brand everything new. They've already got a good kind of branding going, and I don't want to have to think about like marketing, and I don't want to be a marketing guy all the time. Try to give me a calendar, try to give me a protocol, and I'll follow along. And I like to be more part of a team, I think.
Yeah.
So then he's like, so I said, okay, I'm on board. I want to do this. And then it was like came down to where I want to practice. Like, okay, do I want to be close to San Francisco, where a lot of offices, or do I want to try to be out in Sacramento, where I could be potentially the first, the specific chiropractic center in my area, where I could potentially branch out? And that's what I decided to do.
Yeah, yeah. So what has been some of your favorite moments now, kind of working with Sean or the specific, or with the art of the specific as well?
Whew. Man, so backing up a little bit, so just business-wise, I'm going to talk about some money now, okay? Because I'm sure, I don't know what students are you getting any questions about money at all or nothing like that?
Unfortunately, I didn't set this up somehow to have the Q&A to be working, the features enabled, but we do have viewers, so
So I think the biggest thing for me, and I could just tell students, is to really start to think about, whether you're going to go in for an associateship, to start putting away money. Again, they probably hear this a lot, but just start to think about saving for money, or having some kind of way or some kind of plan of what it's going to be like to open up my office and how hard it's going to be to bust your rear those first few months in that first year to really get things kind of rolling to where you can establish a base of clients or patients. So business-wise, another reason, Dave, why I chose Sacramento was, one, just the cost of living, man. I was able to get a house out here in Sacramento for $100,000 cheaper than a condo I had in Boston. And again, at the time, the market crashed. So this was 2008, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
So I got out here in California, and it's 2008, and man, the banks just crashed. So that was intense. So I'm sitting here trying to go to banks and trying to get these loans, and they're just basically laughing at me, And it didn't matter like how many years I had experience on the East Coast. I was basically looked at in their eyes as a new doc, graduating, coming out to California. So I had to kind of get kind of smart real quick. And we had a good cash flow. We had good cash savings because we sold our place in the East Coast. But that was the biggest thing I can tell people, is just to try to look at, if you're going to open up your practice, have a good 6-month year plan of startup costs. Startup costs 6 months, just making nothing, or maybe just paying bills, and then just having that cushion. So being a part of Sean, having him coach me through, man, he coached me through, like lease negotiations, how to set up my office as far as the build out, the flow was concerned. Just having him on the phone, man, because that first year when I was open, because now it's been 5 years. So it's been 5 years this year.
Oh, wow.
But the first year was intense, man. A lot of up and down emotions. Like every morning just saying, man, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? It's just really weird. Those feelings. I never really had those emotions before. It was really crazy.
Yeah.
So being a part of a team and having kind of Sean and a coach to go to, man, that really helped out tremendously. As far as being the specific chiropractic centers. And then, the coaching system at the time, I think he went through a few more modules, but then they took a break, and then they started back up with the TATS program.
Yeah. I've seen some videos of you in Dublin, which is actually, I'm on my way there this weekend to join the fun of the level 2 stuff. But I've seen you train there. I've seen you on the speeder board. Looking pretty good.
So for me, man, and I tell this every time I go back, for me, it's not about learning it because I know a lot of this stuff already. For me, it's about just fine-tuning. I just want to, if I start slipping on a little bit of a hand position, or if I'm not seeing anything correctly on an X-ray, I want to correct that mistake right away.
Yeah.
Because one thing, look, we're asking people for a lot of money when they're coming in to see us. I want to make sure that I give them my best, and I want to make sure they get the best results. I want to give them more than just their average chiropractor they can go to. Because I'm in a town with tons of chiropractors, but nobody in my whole area does what I do. So I want to make sure when they come into my office, they know they're in a different place. And if they're on board with me, great. I'm gonna give them 120%. But if they're not, that's fine. Then this procedure isn't for them.
Yeah.
So that's why I keep going back. I keep going back to just keep fine-tuning my procedures. Then I have guys like you coming out and up my rear and learning this procedure, and so I have to stay ahead of you guys.
Oh, that's what it is. I understand now.
I can't let you guys get ahead of me. Yep.
Yeah, because it kind of goes back to some of your fraternity upbringing, like your foundation, because maybe that's like one of the things that also kind of attracted me to the Art of the Specific family, or the TATS family, was that the level of dedication and the people always wanting to up their level and perfect the art, because just a couple of weeks ago, there were several students that have gone through the program, level 1 already, but decided to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's awesome, and
the biggest thing is once you go through it, but until you start seeing people, until you start applying it in real world, I really don't. Same thing with like probably learning a second language. I don't feel like you really learn it and own it.
Mm-hmm.
So until you start taking somebody through a whole care, and then you can go through and say, oh, now I'm going to go back and relearn it, and then I'm telling you what, it's amazing. You start seeing things, you start hearing things from like Sean and Andy. You're like, okay, now I get it, because I just saw a person or a patient that had that exact same thing. But it's great you start taking these modules now as a student. That lays a good foundation, but I think until you start practicing it, man, you really don't get it. But that being said, I think where a lot of doctors fail too is that they get out there, they take one module or they take one series and they're like, oh, I got this, and now I can either teach it myself or I don't ever need to go back and do another seminar, which I don't get that. It was funny. So a quick story. I had a couple patients. They recently sold their house. So they moved a little bit further away, and they were like, Bryan, we love coming here, but it's going to be like an hour or something away. Do you have anybody that you can recommend? I'm like, I don't know anybody in your area that does this procedure.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up finding a knee chest doctor that they wanted me to check out. I was like, well, look, give me his name. Let me call him up. So I ended up calling the guy. I call him, and he goes, well, I was like, so you do knee chest? He goes, yeah. I'm like, okay, great. When's the last time you did a seminar? Oh, I haven't done a seminar in like 20 years. That was the first red flag. The second red flag is he goes, I'm like, well, so do you have your own practice? He said, no, I do this part-time. So I'm like, what do you mean you do part-time? I was like, well, I do chiropractic part-time. I'm like, wow. I was like, okay, so what do you mean? Oh, I do it out of my house. I'm like, all right, well, I was like, thank you very much. I wasn't rude to him. I just said, I'll just report back to my patients. And I just went back to him like, look, here's the deal, here's the situation. You can go to them and check them out and see how the first kind of visit goes with them, but in my opinion, I wouldn't go to him. You know, he hasn't been to a seminar in years to learn this procedure. And again, and granted, this procedure that we utilize isn't just your general chiropractic. This technique allows us to see tons of just difficult cases and people that have been dealing with crazy conditions for a long time. We're not just dealing with your general, oh, I just got neck pain a week ago. We're dealing with people that have been chronically ill or had a chronic condition for years. Yeah. And that's what these two people were. So I said, look, with you guys, I mean, you can go check them out, have a sit down with them, but and then let me know. And sure enough, and so the funny thing is, this woman, she's an actress herself, and she told me, she goes, you know, I've been doing acting for a long time, and I continue to do classes. She's like, I wouldn't want to go to a doc that doesn't continue to learn his craft and keep perfecting his craft. It was interesting that she said that. I just thought that was very telling, and it kind of taught me a lot. That was kind of neat.
Yeah, one of the things that you do
from a patient perspective.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of these things that you brought up when you were first started learning was instrumentation, and using thermography or the Tran. So how important has that been in your practice?
Now, what do you mean instrumentation? Oh, like from a private consultation you and I had, as far as, or just now? Tonight?
Oh no. I mean, yeah. You just brought up instrument stuff like that. So
you mean how important it is to use instrumentation?
Yeah. How important is it?
Now, why do you ask that question?
Why? Because I want to get your opinion.
Well, I thought you were kind of going to go because a lot of people get the misconception where. My biggest thing is I see a lot of students and doctors, they can get really lazy with the instrument because Roger and Bill Omalu that helped them, they kind of designed that instrument together. Mm-hmm. They designed it with such ease for basically the user ability of it is so easy to use that people think, oh, I can just pick this up and be kind of, well, you can just go quickly with it. You don't have to care about your form. But yeah, all that matters, and that I learned a lot of that technique and art use from just kind of watching Andy and kind of listening to Andy and Sean. But because even myself, I think I'm doing perfect, and then Andy's like, "No, you need to do this." I'm like, "Damn it," you know what I mean? But as far as practice is concerned, man, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to see people in my office without it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but it's cool to see and just track progress. That's the coolest thing to do, to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, because that's one of the things too, because even now, like, I'm in clinic, and there's not a pre and post, so I'm truly just kind of basing care on if the person feels better or not. And like we learned in class that pain is one of the last stages of the neurology that kind of flares up. So and if we are stating and pronouncing that we are doctors of the nervous system, then I want to know personally, like have I actually positively impacted it, or did I negatively impact it? Or did I even do anything?
Right. Yeah. Did I just make a noise and send the person on their way?
Exactly.
Yeah. So in your clinic, there's no instrumentation whatsoever, correct?
Yeah. We don't use that. I mean, pretty much we are just kind of dialed in on musculoskeletal. We did have one staff doc that was doing pulse ox. Kind of see.
But as far as a student, can you bring it in? Now you're almost done. But couldn't a student just say, hey, I got this. I want to bring this in outpatient. I just want to use it for my patients only. Can't you do that?
Have a staff doc that's trained on thermography.
Jesus, really? Okay.
So
yeah. Well, so and here's another business model too, a business sort of thing. I think in today's time, what is it? 2014 already, man. People and patients, they're not stupid. At least in California. There's becoming a standard, I think, with Yelp reviews and just reviews out there and just the knowledge that people can get, and I think just the standard of people in general.
Yeah.
If they're going to pay money, man, they want to know that that something's happening with them. But not just that, but I feel that patients appreciate that I check they love that I use objective measurements to see when they need an adjustment, when they don't need an adjustment. And in fact, I also think that I think a lot of people are almost expecting almost like digital systems, like digital X-rays now.
Yeah.
I'm almost getting a feeling like when I'm using like film X-ray, they're like, oh, because I think they're just so used to seeing digital everywhere that they're expecting it in our office. So the docs that are coming out, oh, I'm just going to do this and be almost like 20, 30 years ago, you're not keeping up with the times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when people are coming in and paying you money, and they're expecting, man, a high quality and high standard of care.
Yeah.
That's the things that I've been observing over the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
People just love it. They love that we use instrumentation.
Yeah.
You know? But then we manually adjust them, which is nice.
Yeah. And you might have kind of covered this already, but this is kind of gonna be like your final question. If you could impart your legacy onto a chiropractic student, or maybe perhaps say a chiropractor that are that's interested in taking the art of the specific, or coming to Enzo and learning more about upper cervical, what would be your greatest advice to a student that's could be just graduating here, say August 2015?
Okay, so just in general, so if you're a student in general, I don't know if you have to have everything prepared and exactly down to the T, but I think just be prepared to work. And that's like you said, you don't talk about the fraternity back, because I think chiropractic college, it's supposed to be this graduate program, right? And I think a lot of students, they just treat it as, oh, it's just this undergrad, real simple deal thing to do. One thing the fraternity taught me back in the day was just like, man, this is serious business. And we have to utilize this 3.5 years of trimester time, which goes by super fast, to basically start training ourselves to work. So we were doing just tons of work in the fraternity, along with getting through our classwork. So that basically just taught me to work my tail off, man. So when students are getting out there graduating, when it does get hard, you can't just quit. You just got to be prepared to work your tail off and to do whatever it takes to open up your practice. If that's what it's going to be, open up your own practice, or if it's going to be to go in as an independent associateship or independent doctor or an associateship, just work your tail off, learn what you can, then get out. If that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
That'd be one thing. Just be prepared, man. Mentally be prepared to work, because schoolwork, that's nothing. You may think it's hard, but when you get done, you lived in the real world, right?
A little bit.
But when you're done, just get prepared to work your tail off, and then once you get the work done, then it's just easier.
But because you work today, and now you're gonna eat crawfish tonight.
Yes, I get the party. But as far as tats are concerned, Sean and Andy, man, I've known them a long time, and these guys, they've seen the numbers over years. They have, especially with Andy and Sean. Andy knows, just tons and tons of history, and he just makes this his life passion to learn where chiropractic has come from, and that's one thing I do appreciate about him. So if he hears like some BS on Facebook or whatever, he's like, nope, this is the truth, and this is where it comes from.
Yeah. I
like that, and just him and Andy have just seen pure numbers, and I like learning from those guys.
Yeah.
I don't really and that's where I'll go to. So as far as the TATS program is concerned, you're going to get the real deal. Another thing I like about it is that we're not just set in stone. We're not just sitting here saying, okay, these are the green books, and we have to do it exactly like BJ did it, because that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here on an iPhone and a Mac computer. There's no, I'm not sitting on a tube television. It's ridiculous. And I think where I think TATS can go is just to keep pushing the envelope as far as specificity, because all that the specificity of the specifics, if we keep increasing that, this just keeps improving our percentage of getting people well, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if a chiropractor or a chiropractic student wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
I'm pretty highly I'm easy accessible on Facebook.
Yeah.
Or you can contact, I have a Facebook page, the Specific Chiropractic Center, Elk Grove. I'm an open public page. My personal profile is Bryan Wright, and you can message me that way. That's fine. I don't care.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. There was so much content there. that I hope.
I blabbered a lot, man. I hope it was okay.
Oh no, that's good. I mean, no, because I think sometimes students don't think about the journey that you take after graduation. That it's a process. Everyone has to learn different ways. I mean, and I think a lot of students and probably new grads and chiropractors that have been in the trenches for a while, can relate to your story. And then that's the biggest thing too is to learn from people that have done it, that are successful, that are helping a lot of people, and that's how I want to try to model my future as well too. So no, I mean, it's excellent content, great advice, and this is going to be something that we do monthly,
Yep.
yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm hoping to grab one of the East Coast docs with with Francis.
Thank you, East Coast. Hopefully, if there's anybody East Coast still on, man, thank you, because I know it's late over there. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. So once again, thank you so much. And this was the art of the specific call. And once again, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, brother. Peace out, man.
Thanks.